I just wanted to get home. It was 2 a.m. The rain was pouring, and the streets of Seattle were dead quiet. But the moment I stepped into that Uber, the air felt heavy. My driver didn't greet me. He didn't even look at me. He just kept staring into the rearview mirror, but he wasn't looking at my eyes. 5 minutes in, and the silence was suffocating. Every 30 seconds, his eyes would dart to the mirror, widening in pure terror. I checked my phone, no signal. I asked him, "Is everything okay?" "You're missing the turn." He didn't answer. His knuckles were white on the steering wheel, and he was sweating, even though the AC was blasting cold air. Suddenly, he slammed the brakes in the middle of a dark overpass. He turned around, but not to look at me. He looked directly at the empty space beside me. He started whispering, "Please, tell her to stop. Tell her to stop looking at me like that." My heart stopped. I told him there was no one there. That's when he started sobbing. I thought he was having a breakdown. I pulled out my phone to call for help, but the screen stayed black. I opened my camera app, hoping the flash would scare him off. I turned it to selfie mode. And that's when I saw it. On the screen, leaning against my shoulder, was a woman. Her face was gray, caked in dried mud, and her eyes. They were just empty, black voids. She was smiling directly into the lens. I froze. My thumb hovered over the screen, paralyzed. I wanted to drop the phone, but my fingers wouldn't obey me. In the reflection of the screen, I could see her gray, decayed fingers slowly sliding over my shoulder, reaching toward my neck. That's when the driver looked in the mirror one last time. He let out a blood-curdling shriek, slammed the brakes so hard my forehead hit the back of his seat, and threw the door open. "I'm sorry. I'm so sorry," he screamed, his voice cracking. He bolted out into the pouring rain, leaving the driver's side door wide open. I scrambled to my feet, desperate to follow him. I grabbed the rear door handle and pulled. Nothing. I shoved my weight against it. Still nothing. Child lock. I screamed, pounding on the glass as I watched the driver's silhouette disappear into the darkness of the highway. I turned to crawl through the gap between the front seats to escape through his open door. But the moment I moved, the driver's door slammed shut with violent force. Click! The automatic locks engaged. The headlights died. The interior lights flickered and went out. I was trapped in the pitch black. And then, right against my ear, I heard a wet, freezing gasp. In a creepy, flat, distorted whisper, "Now it's just us." I don't remember screaming after that. I just remember the suffocating smell of wet earth filling the car, and the sensation of something ice cold wrapping around my wrists. The next thing I knew, blinding red and blue lights were flashing through the rain-streaked windows. A highway patrol officer was knocking on my glass, shouting to see if I was okay. He opened the door from the outside. I tumbled out onto the wet asphalt, sobbing, frantically pointing down the dark road, trying to explain about the driver running away and the woman in the back seat. The officer looked at me, then at the empty, locked car, his face turning incredibly serious. He radioed for backup. Within 20 minutes, they found the driver shivering in a ditch half a mile away, completely hysterical. But it's what the detectives told me the next morning at the station that makes me shake every time I look at my phone. They run the license plate of the car. It belonged to a man who had been reported missing 3 weeks ago. When they showed me his picture, it wasn't the man who drove me last night. The man who drove me is still unidentified, and the highway where he stopped. The police told me there hasn't been a functioning overpass on that stretch of I-95 since a fatal collapse back in 1994. I'm safe in my apartment now, but every time I try to open my phone's camera app, it glitches, showing a faint gray shadow standing right behind me in the reflection. If you take an Uber late tonight, don't stare at your phone. Keep your eyes on the road, because once those child locks click, you might realize you aren't the only passenger.